Coming up on this episode, all of this builds to an incident that George Lindsey revealed in his 1995 book, Goober in a Nutshell. Well, Lindsey was not only goofing around, but he was using bad language, which apparently set her off. That she came over to him and hit him hard over the head with an umbrella. And then she hit him again, so hard that the umbrella bent. Thanks for stopping by. I did not know that. Classic TV edition. Please like and subscribe.
Please stop saying don't forget to like and subscribe.
Sure, but how are we going to get followers?
The Andy Griffith Show has been in syndication for 60 years now. Reruns of the show began running in 1964, while the series was still shooting original episodes. It's probably as close to perfection as any television program ever came. We like to think that the characters we saw in Mayberry were also like that in real life too. But in reality, the actors who played those roles were as imperfect as the rest of us are. With that said, it's always a bit of a shock when we find out the actors we see on television or in movies are sometimes almost nothing like the characters they play. Cary Grant once said, "Everybody wants to be Cary Grant. Even I want to be Cary Grant." Bob Denver, who played the simple-minded and mistake-prone character of Gilligan, was really a very smart man who'd been a high school math and history teacher. Frances Bavier, who played Aunt Bee, was a classically trained actress for the theater and never really made all those delicious meals we saw on the show. George Lindsey, who played Goober, often played a childlike hillbilly, but before he got into acting, he was a college quarterback and later a high school history teacher. If you're a follower of the Andy Griffith Show at this point in time, it's no secret anymore that Frances Bavier really wasn't much like the sweet and gentle Aunt Bee that America loved. She could be stubborn and cantankerous, and with the exception of Jim Nabors, she really didn't mingle much with the rest of the cast. Andy Griffith has stated that they never really talked to each other aside from the scenes they did together. Howard Morris, who played Ernest T. Bass, also did some directing on the show. He tells of dreading to have to direct scenes with her because she was so difficult. He said working with her was like stepping on a landmine. He said that if he asked her to step 3 inches to the right to get in the proper frame, she'd blow a fuse. Executive producer Sheldon Leonard also had the same experience and said she was the most difficult person in the cast to work with. He said she was a fine actress, but didn't like the horsing around that the other cast members liked to do, and she kept to herself. The relationship between Griffith and Bavier was tense, and one day, Griffith muttered something under his breath about the actress. Jim Nabors, who was friends with both of them, went up to Andy and quietly said, "She's a good actress, you be nice to her." All of this builds to an incident that George Lindsey revealed in his 1995 book, Goober in a Nutshell. He tells a pretty shocking story of an incident he had with Bavier in the spin-off series Mayberry RFD. It occurred during the filming of an episode called The Racehorse. As I've mentioned earlier, Bavier didn't care for people goofing around on the set. Well, Lindsey was not only goofing around, but he was using bad language while he was doing it, which apparently set her off. The way he explains it was that she was so angry that she came over to him and hit him hard over the head with an umbrella. And then she hit him again, so hard that the umbrella bent. To make it even worse, she began yelling at him and lecturing him about his behavior afterward. This upset Lindsey so much that he said he never forgave her for what she did to him. The event happened in 1968, and Lindsey wrote about it almost 40 years later. I think more than likely it wasn't an umbrella that she hit him with, but a horsewhip that you see here. In the episode they were filming, Aunt Bee objects to the jockey using a whip on her horse, and so she takes it from him and carries it to the stands with her.
When do you want me to go to the whip?
Go to the whip?
Use it.
Oh, no. I don't think you should use a whip at all. No whip.
It's kind of ironic that the character of Aunt Bee didn't like the horse being whipped, but the actress, Frances Bavier, had no problem bashing someone over the head with it. What a great example of the difference between the actor and the role. I have a feeling that this was the beginning of the end of her time in Mayberry. Lindsey said that Aside from him being upset about the incident, Ken Barry, who played Sam and was the star of the series, was also upset about it. And Andy Griffith, while not appearing in it anymore, was still the executive producer and had to deal with the incident. When season 3 began, there was no more Aunt Bee. Sam mentioned to Goober and Howard that Aunt Bee was visiting her sister and she'd be there for quite a while. Well, that turned into forever. In a 1966 article, Bavier was well aware of the difference between herself and the beloved Aunt Bee, and she really struggled with it. She said, "It's terribly difficult, because Aunt Bee is so much nicer than me." She tells of finally going to a psychiatrist because of the fight in her head between being herself and being Aunt Bee. After the series ended, she remained estranged from the cast. In 1986, she even rejected a visit that Andy and Ron Howard paid her one day, showing up unannounced at her door. I think the real problem was that they showed up on a whim, which wasn't her style. But this does have a nice ending. Months before she died in 1989, Griffith said he got a call from Bavier saying she regretted being so difficult to work with on the Andy Griffith Show, and she apologized to him for her behavior. Unfortunately, I don't think George Lindsey ever got a phone call from her like that, or he would have included that in his book too. It says something that so many years later, so many people still have a strong interest in Mayberry and all the characters who lived there. You'd think modern Hollywood would take a lesson from this and produce better programs with more characters people can actually relate to. Well, that's all for this one. Thanks for taking the time to stop by.
Ba-da-da, ba-da-da.